Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. I am back here in the controversial Slingshot. I love doing videos on these things every chance that I get because I actually love these so much. The visceral experience. Hopefully this microphone over here with the dead cat is holding its own and I can capture a little bit better some of the downshifting and chirps of the rear tires as I'm rev matching incorrectly, but hopefully I can start to capture a little more of the visceral feeling that I always talk about with these machines. Now, the last time I talked about this thing was actually critiquing the critique of Matt Farrer from The Smoking Tire as how those guys were comparing it to sports cars, and I see that kind of happen a lot, and I get it, but I'm going to come back here now after watching a video from Matt yesterday on the Tesla Cybertruck.
If you spend your hard-earned money on something that makes you happy, even if someone like me hates it, then I'm happy for you.
He's absolutely correct. So when the Smoking Tire did a video on the Slingshot and started kind of comparing it to sports cars.
What's hard for me is you can get a Miata that starts, like a Miata Club starts at 31.
Sure. Things that are better cars, that are built better, that are safer.
I felt like that was just a bad comparison. But also, like, what do you compare this thing to? It's very difficult because it is its own category. So I appreciate his opinion on what the Slingshot was, but I am coming here today to kind of share with you guys what I think the Slingshot is, and more importantly, what it's all about. Today, I am taking this thing from Phoenix up to Payson for, well, we're gonna stop for lunch. And that's really what I think the Slingshot is all about, is just getting out and taking a little adventure and going on a day trip. And I want to thank Polaris Adventures for setting this whole thing up for me. I did have to go all the way up to New River, which is quite a ways out of my way, to grab this thing. But the whole purpose of this video is to share with you guys, yes, I think this is a polarizing vehicle. I think that Polaris thinks it's a polarizing vehicle. And with that, if you have any remote interest in this thing, or just taking a day trip, you can go over to Polaris Adventures. You can find a local business that will rent these things out and just go out and explore for a day and have a good time with a Slingshot. Now, the one thing that I think that, you know, in terms of my love of the Slingshot that really draws me into it is just how connected you are to drop a gear and just rip. It's so fun. This gearbox, the manual transmission, it is such a connected feeling to this machine, and that's what really brings me back to it time and time again. So you can hear the whine of the transmission. It's like, I mean, it's all right here. You're sitting basically on top of all of the mechanical components. In terms of like steering feel, it feels like a go-kart. The whole thing just feels, like I said, visceral is the best word that I can use to describe what this machine is. It revs up to 8,200, I think is what that is, 8,500, somewhere in that range. And it's just such a blast to get up there in you know, those high RPM ranges. That's kind of where it likes to live. But you can also just short shift it. I mean, I'm 3,000 RPM, just cruise at 2,000, 2,500. Now, to those of you who are going to compare this thing to a Miata, as I always love to see the comments go to that direction of why would you do this? You can get a Miata and you're going to have more safety features, those conversations. You're missing the point. This is it's basically a hybrid experience. It is an experience that provides you the open cockpit feeling of a motorcycle. I feel very in tune with my environment. I don't feel like I'm in a cushy car. I don't want to feel like I'm in a cushy car. But I'm also not on a motorcycle. I'm more comfortable than I would be on a motorcycle. So it lives in this weird in-between, and that's why it's classified as an autocycle. It has its own category that is only compared to by, I think, Morgan. There's a couple other competitors out there, but it is its own thing. And being that it is its own thing, it's got to be viewed in that light. So here's the deal. Look, when you talk about, I've seen the comment of like, oh, you get the worst of a car and the worst of a motorcycle. I totally disagree. I think you actually get the best of both and the worst of both, and you get this hybrid experience like no other. So what I mean by that is like, yeah, okay, fine, you can't lane split in a slingshot like you can on a motorcycle. That sucks. You can't lean over and maybe hit corners like you can in a motor. Fine. But what you can do, like you get with a motorcycle, is have a connection to a mechanical machine that motorcycles give you way more than any vehicle can. You get all of the smells of everything around you. And yeah, in terms of the automotive side, sure, you're not going to be as comfortable as in a car, but that's part of the experience. Even in terms of the engine, being right where it is, and the exhaust dumps out the passenger side. It's just very unique and engaging. Cruise control on. Set it at 80. Now, honestly, what's wild is that, okay, we're down to 108 at the cockpit here. 108 with a breeze really isn't terrible. It's not, like I said, it's not cold, but it's not the worst thing in the world either. Now, if you were to get stuck in a traffic jam here, that's where you want to make sure you've got plenty of water, because 110 at a standstill, exposed to the sun, not ideal. But again, in motion, not bad. Roll the sleeves up so we can try to alleviate as much farmer's tan as possible, which I forgot to do. If you're riding these things even with sunscreen for a couple hours, you will have the wildest farmer's tan that you've ever had. So try to roll the sleeves up to alleviate as much of that as possible. So the dynamics of these things, this is where your car people really start to come in and give a little bit of grief to the Slingshot, is having that one wheel in the rear. You kind of get this weird, like, the front end doesn't feel like it has a ton of body roll to it because it's a good suspension up front, but you only have that one tire in the rear, so there's nothing really keeping you planted from like body roll at the backside. But it is a real wide tire. I forgot what the width is on that. I'll drop that down here. The shot like this, which is probably all flattened out in GoPro land, super view style. But these views of these windy roads through these mountains are awesome. Here is all the trees. This is what's so cool to me, is that you can go an hour or so from Phoenix and get into these really lush kinds of areas. There's a cool breeze. So now here we are rolling into Payson, and here we are at Rim Country Barbecue.
So look, I'm a huge fan of what Polaris is doing with the Slingshot. I think it's a very brave move to create a product like this, which is no doubt a niche product. Polarizing product, people don't get it. I love that people don't get it. I think that Polaris loves that people don't get it. And that's part of the draw to this vehicle. There are not a lot of options out there for $22,000 for such a unique experience, for something like this to get out and just have a toy for the weekend. And I think the Slingshot is an awesome vehicle. So drop a comment down below. What do you think about the Slingshot? I love seeing the comments on these things. I will forever make Slingshot videos because I think this vehicle is absolutely awesome. I love what it represents, and I love what it does to people's minds when they see it out in public. It turns so many heads, and it's just an absolute joy to get in one of these things and ride around town. So the trip that I took with this yesterday, Phoenix to Payson, was a total of 143 miles. This was an absolute blast. Again, any chance I get to rip with a Slingshot, I will take it because I absolutely love these things. They're so fun. It's just, you have to experience it for yourself, and I recommend that you do. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. See you guys next time.